Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I've got a bit less of a cold this week than I snuffled my way through last week's vlog. I appreciate people reaching out with suggested remedies in jest or in seriousness. Now, I'm looking down because, of course, now we have got the latest edition of the Ardash corporate calendar. I suspect it's available on our intranet site and our website. It's certainly available through Jane and the team in corporate assurance. And that calendar, in addition to the beautiful images contained within it, sets out some of the key meetings and processes of decision inside the organization, sets them out for the whole of the next year or so, of course, of relevance to everybody who works inside our organization and indeed our partners in the community. It also specifies the learning half-day dates and times through the rest of the year. So a really valuable thing to just spend a few minutes glancing through, particularly perhaps if you're interested in how and where the organization makes its decisions. And I spoke last week about a board meeting where important decisions had been made, investment decisions, difficult decisions about clinical models and changes for some colleagues on our Rodham site in Woodlands, but also that very firm commitment to retain the wider bed base that the organisation has. So whilst that speaks to change, I want in the rest of this vlog to focus on some themes that I've talked about many times. And of course, in doing that, I want to get across that everything doesn't change and there's a consistency of emphasis in our organisation, even with changes to NHS England upcoming or the launch of the 10-year plan. One illustration of that is the continued success we're having in moving towards our 4-week maximum wait in services. I spent time just this week with colleagues in the memory team in North Lincs, who you remember have done amazing work since Christmas to turn around a position of long waits in the face of rising demand for services. And from that example, but from countless others that I'm hearing about and participating in across the organisation, I would offer this: getting to that measure is possible, and it will require us to work in different ways, to think differently with our patients about how to organise services, and to be imaginative in the way in which we do that, potentially to try some new things that maybe we've done in the past that we've wanted to do lots of times before and have maybe never had the impetus to do. That the 4-week wait, of course, is not a nationally imposed thing. It's about something much more important than that. It's about what our patients tell us that they need. And on the one hand, what they tell us is that they do want to be seen with pace, and 4 weeks is a measure of that. But also that there needs to be a certainty, a confidence, a trust in the offer and the arrangement between a local healthcare provider and people asking for help. And it's that confidence, that trust, that certainty that, for me, perhaps the 4-week wait particularly represents. We've said as a board that where we're not able to get to that measure, maybe we need to reconsider whether that is the sort of service we should be providing in the future. But more proudly, we're saying that we think it is possible. And of course, with the leadership of countless clinicians and managers across the organisation, we're now clear as a clinical leadership executive the list of services where we will be investing to make sure we get to that measure, and the much larger list of services where we are already there, or where with some reorganisation and some thought, we can get to that measure over the next little while. You're going to hear loads more about this inside your clinical directorates, inside your care groups, inside the organisation, through mediums like my vlog, about that journey as we go through. And one of the reasons I'm going to be publicising it isn't because necessarily I think we want to put ourselves on the front page, but because we do want to build that sense of confidence and trust. We do want to create cross-organisational learning between a team who've maybe delivered the wait in one part of the organisation with a team who are not yet there in another. So it's really important we talk about it, really important we understand why we're doing it, but also important that as the sunshine comes out, we offer a little bit of confidence and positivity, I think, to each other that this Promise 14 can be done. My other point of emphasis is Promise 19. Of course, Promise 19 is important in a number of ways. We missed it, haven't we? We said we'd get there by December 2024, and we haven't. I was chatting to a senior clinician the other day who asked me what happens when we miss a promise. And my answer to her and my comment to you is this: well, when we can't do it, we learn from that. We go again, and we try some more. Maybe we try some different things. Over the last few weeks, I've been really encouraged by conversations with colleagues in local authority, by clinical leaders like Dermot and Jude and Steve, Richard Chillery as well, who are beginning to build a decent version of a plan ready for July. July, you remember, is when we said we would move to a presumption of not having out-of-area placements in Ardash. It's going to take a lot of work by very many of us. It's going to take changed behaviours, changed approaches, changed points of emphasis. It's a different risk profile for the organisation that we're going to need to talk about and understand and manage. But the cause is just, isn't it? Because we know that being sent a very long way away disassociates people from friends and from family, often impedes recovery in terms of connection to those services. We cannot guarantee the quality of care that patients are receiving in some of those services, particularly when compared to the NHS expertise that we are able to offer here at Ardash. So I am very clear, and the wider board I think is very clear, of the absolute importance of moving to meet this measure. We were discussing it with the Council of Governors, patient representatives only the other week. So please begin to ask locally, if you work in bed-based mental health services, what are some of the changes that we're going to need to make? What's the role you could play? How do you get your suggestions put forward as we go on this journey together? Of course, it's going to mean we have to be able to admit and discharge people through the full 7 days in line with Promise 22. It will require change. It will require imagination. But I promise you, colleagues, it absolutely can be done. One final reminder then. Promise 14, Promise 19 will take us doubtless the year ahead, but there's something in much shorter order. By the 1st of May, you're going to need to be ready for radar. What that means is that you need to do your radar training advertised on the intranet. What better opportunity than the Learning Half Day on April the 15th to do that? So please go away from this vlog and have a quick look at the radar training and make sure you're ready. You want to do one other thing from this vlog? Well, right at the end, there's an advert for some fantastic podcasts about pensions and pension planning in the organisation. Maybe that's something as you watch to start the cricket season that you might want to while away a little bit of time doing as well. Thanks for tuning in. Back next week. All the best.